You are now listening to Saucy But Sweet with Ali McPherson, a podcast where nothing is off limits, where we talk about everything from romance, sex, pop culture, and everything in between. Sit back.
Hey fam! Can all of my Afrobeats listeners stand up? I am so excited for today's guest. Our guest goes by the name of Motion, or you've probably also heard him referred to as Ayoinmotion.
Question love like it's some kind of cancer. She's a Gemini but acts like a Cancer. Step to you like the moves of a dancer. When you question, baby, is my answer. When we realize I'm not that type of guy, you need to prioritize having me in your life.
And if you're as chronically online as I am, then you've seen some of his recent comical Instagram skits.
I have been sending money to my family behind your back.
Wow, how much?
Wait, what? This is what I'm saying.
How do you feel that she's stealing from you?
Why would I want to marry somebody like this?
Please elaborate.
You're always cooking. I'm never hungry. The house is always in a great condition.
Continue.
We manage our finances very, very well. I'm going to say, this is this obsession with family. I didn't even...
Is her family annoying?
My father was never there. I barely had a childhood with parents. Like, why is this such a big deal?
He was an orphan.
Oh my days.
You don't have to reveal that on national television. Like, that's private information.
I'm not used to the food and the nothing.
I'm trying to heal. I'm still trying.
I'm sorry, I can be better for you.
How about I give you guys some homework?
He is everywhere. Honestly, I'm just glad he had time to join us because he is what you called booked and busy. He's an MC host, an Afrobeats artist, and just an all-around cool, super cool person. So without further ado, Motion, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me, Ali. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for the intro. Very kind, very kind.
Yeah. And this is what I want to call a reunion. I know the first time we had been connected, it was during my grad school, and I had an audio project, and it was for the EndSARS.
Yes.
I remember that. And I found you on Instagram and Twitter, and I remember you were talking a lot about it. You're doing like a lot of activism stuff.
Yeah.
And, and that was actually one of my favorite projects I've ever done. So
Awesome. Thank you for that. Good job with that.
yeah. And for those of you who don't know about, SARS stands for the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, which was a Nigerian police unit formed in 1992 to fight violent crime, but in reality, similar to the police departments here in the U.S., SARS has been known for their human rights abuse against citizens. And so that was just something that I've been covering because there were movements like in New York, outside of Nigeria as well. And so, yeah. And I'm curious to know whatever happened with that. I feel like that was not talked about again. At least I didn't hear about it or see it much.
It's one of those things that I think the activism and the pushback was necessary, and then it helped to shed a lot of spotlight and awareness around police brutality that was going on in Nigeria. So it did put SARS on notice, and I think it had a overall effect. But it's not a situation where like there was a clear, finite solution. But I think it was more like, okay, there's more awareness about this now. We're gonna move a little bit differently.
Okay.
It ended up also spreading and going beyond police brutality to becoming about like ending governmental impunity and corruption, which are things that have not completely eradicated. But overall, I think it was a very, very positive movement and brought a lot of change.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of like the Black Lives Matter movement where it was like, it's not like everything was just solved. Like, okay, everything's great now. It's like, well, there's still things going on. You'll still every couple months hear about a shooting on an unarmed Black person or something like that. And you're like, what? But the fact that people can come together collectively, you know what I mean? Especially, I think that was like what, in 2020 or 20? Yeah, I think it might have been like 2020 or something like that.
Time has passed. Like anything, I think it's always a cumulative effect with change. Each movement adds on to the next one. And then sometimes there's a certain movement that just like bursts everything wide open. But how society is. Sometimes it takes one step forward and it takes two steps backwards. So when you think about all the stuff we were pushing back again in 2020, both in Nigeria and even here in the United States, you imagine all of those the movement and a lot of the changes that were made, and then you imagine where we are now, and you're like, wait, did 2020 happen? So that's the thing about activism and bringing about change. It always continues. It never really stops.
Yeah, and so what has been going on with you? You know, because I consider a little reunion. What has been going on?
There's a lot happening. I mean, one, I'll break it down. I'm primarily, so you mentioned some of these things when you introduced me. I appreciate that. Music is still very much a big part of my life. I am working, so I've been dropping singles for it, but I've not officially announced the album. But the album is called Confessions of a Nigerian American Immigrant. I moved here as a teenager, right? So I moved to Flint, Michigan when I was 13 years old. So I spent, a little past the half of my life in this country. I'm a Nigerian. I'm an American. I'm a Nigerian American. And when you think about like how African music has become popular over the last couple of years here in the diaspora, you hear a lot of music with Afrobeats that has to do with, it covers more around love and, community and all these connections. And the content is really good. But there's also a story to be said about those of us who are of the diaspora and of where we're from, right? We are of two nations or multiple. I call us, you know, you know, three country kids, immigrants in the diaspora who have this lived experience that is shaped by their time there and their time here. And so Confessions of a Nigerian American Immigrant, the album, I think it speaks to everyone, but it speaks especially to immigrants, regardless of where you're from. And then I think it speaks to people, definitely of the African diaspora who will have this, duality. And I think that there's space for our story to be told. And I think a lot of the times it's not. And so I'm just excited to be that voice, to speak to
Yeah.
experiences that I feel like many people can relate to.
Yeah, dope. So I feel like we got the exclusive then, right? Like you just
Yes, yes, yes. It is because I've not really publicly announced the album yet. I've just been doing things that I feel like is creating the ecosystem for it. But yes, it's coming most likely July of 2026.
ooh, dope. Okay. All right, y'all. Okay. We'll make sure to talk about that more also when it actually comes out. I'll mention it again. But nah, that's really dope. And so I don't want to ask the cliche things, but I
Mhm.
have to ask, like, what made you take this leap in music? Because I feel like the industry is so shaky and so crazy. You know it. We all know it. What made you really take this leap? And like, how does the activism you do also kind of shape into that?
Well, I see it this way, music is not something that has been new for me. It's something I've been doing for quite a while, but
Mhm.
and the industry is always shaky. Like that's the nature of the way the music industry has been built over the last 4, 5, 6 decades, right? And then there's a lot of artists outside of the quote unquote music industry, right? I think there's a difference between the music business and then there's an industry of music and then there's a community of music. Everybody's in a community of music. Now, are they in the industry of music? That's a different conversation. Are they in the business of music? That's a different conversation. But for me, I've always been a creative, always been an artist. So it's not new for me. If anything, I think this album, which I'm excited to talk about, is very, very specific because it's telling a story that I've told in multiple variations as an artist, but it gives me an opportunity to entirely dedicate and focus on telling this particular story. Activism for me is something that like is just always there. And so it's not it's not something that like I put on and I put off. It depends on
Yeah, yeah.
what
Mhm.
requires impact that we need to use. And even the music speaks to impact. Even the story, it's I think it's especially relevant with everything that is going on right now with ICE and people being deported. Like this is an immigrant built country. This is a country that is also built on the backs of, you know, our ancestors who were brought through the transatlantic slave trade. And then when you take that out, then it's continuously built by them and then immigrants, right? So this is a country of immigrants. So I feel like this album, not I feel like I know that this album is very relevant to now because it's like we are all immigrants to a certain level, but we also it depends on when your people came here and how they got here. So this album feels like a necessary conversation to say, listen, let's talk about the immigrant experience, not one that is defensive, because it's reacting to what is going on right now, but one that is more holistic.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up the ice as well. Like, do you feel like someone who, like you say, you're very political and it's just in you. It's not something that you take off and take on like a jacket. It's in you. How do you deal with like the anger with that when you're like making music and you kind of have to think about these stories and stuff like that? Like, how do you kind of stay grounded in the midst of all that?
I think it's similar to like how everybody tries to stay grounded. I think it just depends on where your outlet is, right? So for me, at the moment, it's important that my music speaks to this. So my music is telling a story about me as a Nigerian American immigrant. And in that is my history in coming here, and is also like me looking back to my time then and then also talking about now. So it is also grounded in current day reality. There's a line in the song, one of the songs of the album is called Flint, Michigan Arriving. And it's me arriving in Flint, Michigan and just first getting to America and how I engage with that. But I also, in the second verse, I'm talking about like my experiences now looking back at that. There's a line where it says, this is for the immigrants. I'm telling all our stories, whether it's glory or whether it's glory. So I'm telling these stories. And then there's another line that says, xenophobia is running rampant. We got to fight back. So these are all lines that are speaking to what was and what is. And the fact that, like, listen, we can't be quiet in these moments. We can't let xenophobia take over. We can't all of a sudden forget the things that we all fight for. What is affecting immigrants in America at the moment is affecting all of us, right? Because it's coming from the same source of like, you know, anti-equality rhetoric, right? Anti-equity rhetoric, right? The things like love thy neighbor, the things that we would hope that has become an expectation are being weaponized. So this is just my way of telling my story and hoping that in telling my story, I remind us as a community and as a country that like this is not something affecting other people. Like it's not like, oh yeah, it's them over there. No, it's us over here.
I'm thinking about like this year and really the past couple years at the Grammys and stuff like that and different award shows, everybody, I mean, Billie Eilish, I mean, Asha Boozy, everybody was talking about like, the importance of the immigrant experience and why immigrants deserve respect here and like what's going on. And because the Trump administration is so kind of like aggressive and gross, um, you know, celebrities now feel that push and that encouragement to be more political and speak out, right? And so, do you feel like that is the role of people that have this success, like Taylor Swift and stuff like that? And do you feel like you have more respect for people that do that? And because there are some artists that might not feel comfortable speaking politically and not to divide fans and stuff like that.
To be quite honest, I think that like because there are times when people who are quote unquote celebrities or have a higher popularity count, I've spoken up in ways that you're like, nah, we didn't need that. That is no, I don't agree with that, or that is not helpful. Some people are better equipped than others to be able to speak to the issues of the times. I think it really comes down to what kind of artist are you. And there's certain expectations that comes with the way you carry yourself, right? So if you're an artist that doesn't really engage your content or your music and your social expression is not one that really speaks to that, I think sometimes there's less expectation for you than those who like that is how they cut their teeth. I also think it depends on the issue and how much of how it is relevant or is it's present in. So everything matters, decency and human rights and civility and equality and equity are all things that everybody deserves to have regardless. So yes, I respect people who speak more about that, but there are sometimes we're also gripped by something in a country or in a space that is bigger than anything. And I think these ICE raids and deportations has been that, right? And it's why people are like, listen, we may not have the power, but we can't be quiet. And you've seen those who have been speaking about it, and you've seen those who just like they just go out going on about their day. And some people get called out and some people don't. I also think it depends on like for example, you could be a white artist profiting off like black music, right? And what do we mean by black music? Music that has been created and pushed and generated by black people. And it's kind of like, all right, and stuff affects black people is like, okay, you're profiting off this music. Yes, you're talented. We give you credit for that, but it's like, but you're not gonna talk about this. And so then maybe an eye roll, like, what are you really about? Or it might be somebody who's like, maybe you're religious in your disposition and you talk about love and kindness. And then some crazy is happening, and it's like, oh, wait, these people don't deserve love and kindness. Like, what's good? So there's a lack of consistency, and I think that's when people get caught out the most. Or maybe something is happening to a ethnic demographic that people see you as a representation of that. Like, how DJ Khaled got a lot of flack because he never really said anything about the Israel-Palestinian conflict. And it's like, wait, but you're Palestinian though. Like, whereas Mark was like, like, Bella Hadid and her sister, like they're known and they spoke up and they had things to say. So, you know, I think it has a lot to do with these different factors when people are being evaluated for whether they're quiet or whether they're talking.
Yeah, and I just feel like it's crazy where we are as a nation, like a place of immigrants, a place where we're so diverse, we're so mixed, our friends, our family all come from different places, and something like even the Super Bowl when Bad Bunny was performing and everyone was so not everyone, but a certain population of people that were very like, America first," were angry about it just because he had decided to have his, a Puerto Rican residency so that people that came to his concerts wouldn't have to worry about ICE. And people were mad at him and had an issue with him doing the Super Bowl. Like the thing about like that's so odd to me that in a country like this that would even be something that's said or whatever. Because then like what if Burna Boy, let's say, is I hope one day. Oh my God, Burna Boy, please could do the
Right.
Super Bowl. What kind of backlash will that get? You know what I mean? For what?
Yeah. I mean, we are in an attention grabbing economy, right? So attention is monetized. So sometimes it might just be, man, how many people are there in this country? 300, 400 million people. So if like 20,000 people said something, it's a small fraction of 300, 400 million. But that 20,000 is a sizable number, but it doesn't mean that it speaks for the majority of the population. And we're in a community, in a society, especially with social media, that profits of like rage baiting and clickbaiting. So, I mean, they say men lie, women. Well, I like to say men lie, women lie, numbers don't. So, how many people watch the Super Bowl versus how many people actually watch the opposite, the show that with Kid Rock and whoever else was on there?
Yeah, whatever that bullshit was.
Yeah, go look at the numbers, and then you want to go crazy. Yeah, look at the number of people who watch neither.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's but let me tell you, for real though, shout out to Burna Boy. I hope one day, I mean, I think he's very popular, you know. Few people are at Bad Bunny's level at the now in terms of popularity, but do the Super Bowl, man. I'm here for it. I'm gonna tell you. And I think about when you mention like white people that are profiting off of like black people's music and black music, I think of like Jack Harlow, right? He just had an R&B soul album now called Monica, and he talked about how now he's gotten blacker. You know what I mean? But yet he doesn't speak to anything going on within the black community. He stays completely out of it. But yet he's like, "Oh, I've gotten blacker and black." You know what I mean? And I don't know. It just felt very ick.
You know what? I think that's also interesting because sometimes we also have to be careful, like in the sense of which I intentionally there's certain things I just don't pay as much attention to, but some of it at some point just felt like comedy and I wouldn't like lightweight bullying, but mostly just comedy. I think it just took on a comedic. Really, it's more comedy because here's the thing, Jack Harlow is being in the spaces that he's saying he's in, right? Like, and he decided that he wanted to make more like R&B music. Hey, hats off to him. I'm an artist. I'm always very weird about like taking a like that just like artists are free to create what they want to create, and as a community and society we choose to decide if we're feeling it or not. A lot of the ways people were making fun of it, they've not even heard the album, so it just felt like a thing like, oh, let's make fun of this. So I think some of it was just funny, and some of it, I some of it just feels like, this is not really this is not a social political deep think piece because it's not a situation like, we know how Justin Timberlake had his era. We know how Anna Montana, Miley Cyrus had that era. We know Post Malone, like all of these people who like they had those moments where they really leaned heavily into black music and then they evolved into other things. On some level, they're allowed to evolve. But we also understand like there's been a history in this country, right? And it's a reflection of societal issues that we sometimes try to like limit into these boxes of like who really makes money of black people's music in America? Like if we really want to have the deeper conversation, so yes, we can talk about the Miley Cyrus's and the Jack Harlows were the artists for sure. There's a conversation there. But let's really talk deeply about the music business and who makes money in the music business. There's two things in the music business that are problematic. There's the racial component of who's always made money and who hasn't. And then there's a class component. of those who are Black artists that have then gone to the other side, I've become ultra mega capitalist. I've made money, and they just repeat the same thing that was being done when it was racial, and even now it's class, right? So it's like they're not disconnected, but the lack of equity in the music business used to be very racial. To an extent, it's still racial, but it's also very classist, right? So artists complain. I always say artists who become executives are very much like revolutionaries who become tyrants, right? The change happens, and when the change happens, and when they're on the other side, they do the same thing that they were fighting against.
Yeah, with the Jack Harlow thing, I should listen to his album to see if it's, like, good, because I heard it was bad. Charlamagne the God from Breakfast Club said it was bad. That doesn't mean it's bad. But he was saying, like, there is much respect to white artists that really do it right. You know what I mean? Like, Justin Timberlake, in my opinion, I know he's controversial. I like Justin Timberlake's music. I think he's great. I love it. I never minded it. You know what I mean? But, like, yeah, like you said, though, there are, like, a lot of white artists that do that, and, like, like, everyone, we should be able to evolve. But I don't know. Saying to me though, saying, "Oh, I got blacker," or "My music got blacker," kind of sounds like
Yeah,
me saying, "Oh, I got whiter." Like that's a weird thing to say, kind of. But
it is. But you know what's crazy? Everybody knows what he means, though.
yeah,
Everybody
we know.
knows what
Yeah,
he means. Like, you know, if you start making like, so this is the thing. A lot of quote unquote white music is actually Black originated music. Black people are in the origins of country music. Black people are in the origins of rock and roll. And but in the 2000s, those who were making rock and roll were mostly not Black people. But if you ask, if somebody was big then, it was like, oh man, that person's making white people music. It's like, actually, you don't even know the like, you don't know the origins. You should know the history, technically your history, right? So that they were like, oh, he got white, or he's making white people music. We consider R&B, hip hop is everybody listens to it and makes it. But you consider those like really, really like Black music, even though all music is for the most part is Black music. So Jack Harlow is saying, listen, man, I lean deeper into like that kind of music, yo, and I'm down and I got blacker. And it's like, nah, bro, first of all, you didn't get blacker. Like, you're not, it's wrong use of words. It's a very, but you know what he was trying to say. And Jack Harlow is mostly unproblematic, and he's mostly unproblematic. And we know this, which is why I think it's more of a spoof, make fun of him. Life goes on, but but then it's going to be deeper because depending on how it goes, he could come back, do a song, life continues, or he has one flop, and they'd be like, "Oh, listen, see, that's what happens when." So it's a talk culture, right? But listen, he just wanted to make some R&B, and it's okay. It's literally okay, And he may have gotten it right. He may have gotten it right, or he may have gotten it wrong. Justin Timberlake got it right, but he didn't get it. He got it right musically, but didn't get it right socially with how he tried to just be like, "Oh, I didn't do that." And like, and then they blame Janet, but it's like, you knew what you were doing when you were pulling the nipple. Like,
yeah, and I like though giving artists the ability to evolve, right? Like even Beyonce, they gave her the hardest time. The white conservatives, I mean, gave her the hardest time when she jumped into country. Mind you, she is country. She is a country woman, and she killed it. She
but
killed it.
can I say something also about Beyonce? There was a time when Black people
Yeah.
were also giving Beyonce a hard time. When she was transitioning from Destiny's Child, she became a solo artist. There were people like, "Oh, her music is always whatever." She never talks about it. And then she made Lemonade, and the Black female collective hive jumped behind her because Lemonade was all about overcoming and cheating alligator. And I was like, "Oh, now we rock." And then Beyonce went from being like a particular section of people that like Beyonce in the Black community, like, now Beyonce is ours. And so this thing is not. Yeah, you get my point. I don't even. Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. And yeah, and like I'm curious, who are you listening to? Like who are you listening to
So
like regularly?
interesting. Yes, what am I listening to? So I always try. I see. Of course, I'm listening to Afrobeats always, but I'm a fan of hip hop. I mean, as an artist, I'm a rapper, right? Yes, I'm Afrobeats adjacent. Yes, there's an intersection of that sound in my sound, but at the core of it, I'm a rapper. Like hip hop is at the core of the kind of musical expression that I bring forth. The original Afrobeat in terms of the Fela Kuti is what I grew up listening to. As somebody who's like social political music really heavily, deeply influences me. And I listen to myself too. I enjoy listening to myself. There was a time I didn't enjoy listening to myself, but I enjoy listening to myself, especially now because the album that's coming out, I've done a digital listening for it. So actually, let me tell this story. I sent it
Hmm.
out to 15 people.
Yeah.
Is private link,
Yeah.
and I did like a type form. So after
Hmm.
they listened to it, they filled out the type form.
Hmm.
About 10 people filled out the type form. And it's really amazing because reading the type form, and if you don't know what I mean by type form is basically like a survey link where you could put a bunch of questions and have
Hmm.
people fill it out. So I had people fill out questions after listening to the album.
Hmm.
It's anonymous. I told them to give the album at least 2 spins and give me
Okay.
their thoughts. And it's basically
Okay.
a digital listening. So instead of me gathering people and saying, let's listen and tell me what you
Yeah.
think. And a lot of times when people do that, the album is already out. But I was like,
Mm.
"Nah, you know what? How about you listen to the album before it comes out so I could see what you think? It's
Yeah.
90% done. I could take some feedback. Some I'm not gonna take, some I will. Let me really see if
Okay.
this album is resonating the way I believe it's going to." And
Mm.
the feedback has been amazing. Um,
Wow.
yeah,
I want to
like
listen to this album too.
yeah,
Shit.
yeah,
I want to
yeah.
listen.
You know what? I might send it to you and send you the type form. The type form. So actually, no, I will. I'll send it to you. But the feedback it's been amazing.
Yeah.
Sometimes you feel like this is the album I'm making and this is what it's going to do and this is what it's meant to do, but you
Yeah.
never really know. But to get that feedback was like, wow, yes, this is the what you're saying is the album I made. Like, wow, this is amazing.
Oh, I love that. That must feel so good though to make something and it you ask different people for and it actually they're saying things that you're like, "Wait, how did you know that? How did you know that I was make I made, that's what I made." And that must feel so amazing as an artist. Like, wow.
As an artist, you put a lot of your heart and your soul into creativity, and it's not always rewarded, right? You to be an artist is to know that you are in this tankless bout of creativity sometimes. And so, you put a lot of your effort and your time, and this is an age-old story, it's nothing new. And even when you think about, I think two things I'll say before I get off topic. So it's very fulfilling to get that feedback directly that people took the time to fill out and to read it and be like, wow, that's the first thing. It feels good. So even if those are the only 10 people that ever listen to the album, of course, that's what I want. You're like, I did what I came to do. The second thing is, and it became even clearer to the average person in 2020 when musicians could not pay their bills because they're just like, listen, if I'm not performing, no one's like I make no money because my a million people might listen to my album, but what I get from streaming cannot pay my rent. I feel like it was just like, whoa. Because nobody else can understand that. Like if you are a bartender and you make a drink, somebody pays you for that service, right? If you go into an activity, you pay for that because you understand that somebody made the time to be there to run the activity. Like we understand like paying for service and how this is what the exchange is. Music is that one thing where it's like someone could love their music if they never come to a concert or buy merch. And the only way they support it is by streaming. They could stream it so many times and you might only see cents on the dollar. But if you walked into a place and you're like, yo, you just spent 30 seconds making this drink. We all understand that you pay for that drink. But if I perform here for a minute, somebody might be like, oh, 3 minutes or 5 minutes. Somebody be like, oh, it's cool. I like that. And then they go on another day. And there's no feeling of like, yo, something was just exchanged. But if you think about how much people consume music, it's crazy. So not to go on a tangent, I say all that to say that like being an artist, 95% of the time is going to be a tactless task. But if you don't believe in what you're doing and you are driven and you're dedicated and still might not even get anything from it, it can be a lonely place to be.
It just brings me back to like, in college I dated a jazz musician.
Hmm.
Um, let's call him John.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
Let's call him John.
John.
John was a jazz musician, came from Ukraine, and I had not been into jazz, so it's like I was dating a jazz musician myself, not even fucking caring about jazz. But I liked him, and so I was like, hey, like, you know, we could date. And I used to go to his gigs, and he was very beginning, early career jazz musician. And there were times where we would sit in clubs or, you know, tiny little pubs, and no one would show up, and it would just be me there or his friends. And it's like, wow. And he kept going. And I think, you know, he's in Canada right now doing his thing.
Mhm.
But all those years that I saw from my own eyes, someone getting up every day being like, you know what, no one might come.
No one might come. And then you get to a level where people do come,
Yeah.
but the time and effort you put does not equate to. So when I used to do a lot of live music, there was a time when, you know, in my career, I did live shows often. Once every month, I was playing somewhere, and you know, people came. I really promoted. One thing I'm gonna do is
Yeah.
promote whatever I'm doing. People
Yes.
came. It builds, of course. It doesn't start overnight, but people came. And one of the reasons I stopped was that I realized that it wasn't helping me. Like I'd reached a stage where I'd gotten the growth that came from performing live often, and there was no
Yeah.
longer any need to continue. And I'm going to tell you why. I would spend the money band rehearsal, which was not cheap. The money paying everybody from my own pocket who was in the band because they played my music.
Yeah.
Sell tickets. People show up. The money I made, pay back everything that I'd already spent money on, including the venue, which took its own cut. And by the time I was done, I was just like, what? Why did I do all of this? Like, there's nothing. Like, I made no money. Like, this is pointless. Now, especially once I've done enough of it, and it's like, all right, I might just record just let me make this music and put it online, like, or just do some content. Like, there was no point. I stopped. It was so frustrating. I did it for 3 years, and it's like, if I go back now, I might have just done it for 1 year and moved on. I didn't need to do it for 3 years. Like, cool, they pulled up, but the money I made does not equate, which is why I wanted to make money. I wasn't doing it for money. I wanted to make money, but like, it cost me money. It's one thing if you do something and you break even. It's another thing where, like, it costs you. Time is money, right? That time, I lost money because I did not make money that equated my time. But guess what? Everybody else did. I made an industry around my music and myself to pay everybody but myself. If anyone told you that as a sensible person for something else, you'd be like, what is wrong with you? But with music, yeah, what are you doing? Well, like, what sense does this have? But with music, nobody says starving banker. No one says starving pediatrician. No one even says starving bartender. But you know what they say?
Starving artist. And now it's not even just starving artists, it's starving journalists. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
That's a whole nother thing.
Yes. Your
We'll
industry.
be here all day if you want to get into that.
Yeah. It's
It's ridiculous. It's crazy. But the fact that what I like, though, and what I'm hearing is, like, despite that being the reality, you're still able to really do what you want to do and not sell your soul for it, not do something that you know is wrong just to be where you want to be. Because you could have done that. You could have been like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm gonna be Taylor Swift or something, example. You didn't. You're like, I don't want to do that. And you made your success your way. And that's the journey you're on. That's powerful.
For sure. I think more than being an artist, whatever we do, even though being an artist is important to me, everything is a reflection of who we are, right? So it's a reflection of our desires. It's a reflection of the impact that we want to bring into the world. So when you introduced me, you were talking about all the different things I've done or I do. And I'm going to say this, music is a medium for me. Music is not my gift. It's my medium. Other things like, sometimes people say, oh my God, you're funny. Like, and I'm like, I'm not even trying to be a comedian. One of these days I might get on stage and do a stand-up, but that is besides the point. All of these things are mediums for me. So even like some of the things you've seen recently on my Instagram page with the content creating, and we were doing a spoof of Blue Therapy, this new show on Netflix. And, I've been running into people lately like, oh my God, that is so funny. And then they repeat some of the lines. Like there's a line where I say, we're spoofing it. And I say to my counterpart, I was like, she's like, my heart. I'm like, I don't know your heart. I'm not a cardiologist. And that line, and everyone's laughing. And that line was off the cuff, right? As it's funny. I write. I like, so all of these things are they're mediums. My gift is that with my presence and with my words and with my energy and with all the creativity that surrounds me, I am able to create um um in ways that are impactful. And all those other things you're seeing are the mediums for it. So being an artist is the medium. Doing comedy is a medium, writing is a medium, even speaking to you in the way that I speak, they're all mediums. It's not the gift. The gift is what powers it. And so once you know that, then you kind of decide which medium do I want to put more time in. So one thing I've not really spoken on in this interview is like, me being an MC host, which is actually what pays me the most. People book me to host their events. And I say this very, very humbly, very, very humbly, but I do a really great job of it. I enjoy it. I love it. I'm having so much fun. There's time and effort and there's a dedication to the craft, but I'm a natural, right? So like 80 to 90% of it is natural. And then the other is the hustle and the hard work to stay getting booked, to follow up with people, to put yourselves out there, to be professional, to be consistent, to be paid for your services. That's the business of it. But and the business and the hard work of it. But it's a medium of mine, right? And so it's crazy because that's what pays me the most out of any other artistic medium that I just told you about. And I've spent time on it, but I've not spent as much time on it as I have been an artist. Whereas an artist, once a year I'll get a big check, like when there's a big event that I did, like something really big. But that comes like once in a blue moon. Whereas I'm hosting tomorrow, you know?
And another thing too, like I feel like also you saying that you're doing the MC host, which brings you more money, and it seems to bring you a lot of fulfillment. Like that's really privilege. So many people have to like, and no disrespect to people that have to wait tables or work at Popeyes, but like to be able to be that artist, they have to do stuff that they don't want to do. And so you're like, I get to do this tomorrow, last week, that week. And that's really big. That a lot of people, starving artists, right? Like can
For sure.
you know.
But I have done, and that's a very incredible point you make. And the reality is that I have done that, and to an extent, I still do that. There's many things I do that I don't want to do, but it might be because of the financial sustenance that comes from it. Or let me rephrase this: there are many things I do that I like to do, or I can do, but I don't love to do. I don't deeply dislike it. I'm not like, oh, why am I here? No, a lot of times at the baseline, I'm going to be doing something that I care about. But there's levels, like, and you realize this also as time passes. It's like, I could be doing this, but I want to do this. So you start to kind of find yourself getting as close as you can to the things you really, really want to do versus the things you can't do. And the things that you really, really want to do, how much can it pay you? Because a lot of the time, the things that you really want to do, you already have the passion, you're already dedicated, you probably already spent a lot of years developing your craft. So those things are a given. I tell a lot of people who are creating, when you are creative, you have to understand where you are in your journey, right? So why are people paying me to host an event? One, they didn't always pay me to host an event, and they didn't always pay me what they pay me to host an event, and they won't always pay me what they pay me now because it's an upward trajectory. But there's some events I've done or had to do at a reduced price, not because I didn't know I was good enough, but I knew where I was in my trajectory. You have to know where you are in your trajectory, and you have to know when to turn it up. In college, I was a well-known poet. I was like a poet. Like, yo, I was slamming, I was featuring, people came to shows. I remember there was a year where I did every show on campus, I did everything, and I became known as this amazing poet. The following year, all the student organizations wanted me to perform at their culture shows. I told them that they had to pay me. Some didn't, and some did. The ones that didn't pay me, I didn't do it. That first year, though, I did all of them because I needed to be known for my craft and I needed to be known as the go-to person. But the second year, I could afford to say, hey, listen, this takes a lot of my time. So if you cannot pay me for my time, I'm not doing this. And what did some do? Some said, you know what? We see the value, boom. And some was like, we love it, but we're not going to pay for it. And I'm like, that's fine. I don't take it personal. I know you're going to pay for the food. I know you're going to pay the graphic designer who did the flyer. Unless he's in your organization, then he or she is doing it for free. But all these external things I know you're paying for. You want entertainment, you don't want to pay for it. Great. Go find me last year, the person that was willing to do all of it for free, because that's the level they were. I'm not at that level anymore. But you also have to know yourself in that trajectory. That first year, if I was telling people to pay me, they'd be like, we don't know you.
Even, you know, as an artist, let's say you're painting and stuff like that. In the beginning, people might not be trying to buy, you know what I mean? They don't know you yet. And then as you get more popular, then you could start being like, okay, it's going to be this amount, and people are going to be fighting over that. You know what I mean? Like that's the part about, you know, being a freelancer or whatever, entrepreneur or whatever, you know, we call ourselves. But yeah, you know, gotta make that shmoney. It's hard out here. Know your worth. Gotta make that shmoney though. It's crazy. It's crazy. I talk about it every day, and I'm so tired of talking about it, how difficult it is for everybody. Like there's not, and unless you're like top 1%, everybody is kind of saying the same thing. Going to grocery store, what the fuck? What these apples cost? You know what I like? You know, it's just it's crazy. But also, you know, this is Saucy but Sweet with Ali McPherson, so sometimes we gotta get a little saucy, you know what I mean?
Saucy's fine.
So I don't know if you're as deep in Reddit, if you're as chronically online as I am, but I like to do, you know, a Reddit segment tailored to who I'm talking to. So this one, I feel like you'll have, you know, quite an opinion about it.
Let's see. I may or may not. Let's get it.
Yeah, so this one is, am I the asshole for asking my musician girlfriend to stop writing songs about me? So this screams Taylor Swift. As soon as I heard that, I was like, Taylor Swift. So starting off, I'm gonna make a really long story as short and generic as possible to prevent anyone knowing who I'm talking about. Now, for that to be the first sentence means that this is some bullshit. So something went down.
Okay.
So my girlfriend of a few years is a semi-popular underground singer. She's really popular in the locally. Her following has grown in the last 2 years from a few hundred to around 100,000 followers. She makes pretty okay money. I have no idea how much bigger she'll get. In the beginning, she'd asked my consent to record the personal songs she wrote about me. I always agreed because I didn't mind when it was a small following. She's crazy talented, but a lot of people are. So I didn't think she'd take off, and definitely not so fast. Woo, damn. Her most popular song is not flattering, and it's about me. In her defense, it's one of the ones she asked my consent to record, but I didn't know so many people would hear it. Damn. We got to talking about her first album and what song she wants to put on it. She included the biggest but unflattering song about me. I know I consented to it, but I didn't know it would be heard by all those strangers. I said I didn't want it on her album. She asked why. We argued. Her saying it's not fair for me to change this on her. Me saying I have a right to change my mind when circumstances evolve. I repeated I don't want her to write songs about me if she's going to record them. She said she creates art about her life. I'm a big part of her life, and if I can't accept that, then we aren't compatible. That was days ago, and we haven't talked. I love her. I don't want to lose her. But I think this is a hill worth dying on. My family are mixed, but seem to think I should let it go. But it's humiliating for me, and I think that's valid. What's going to happen to my privacy the bigger she gets? I think I have a right to change my mind, and I don't think she's right to threaten me over it. Am I the asshole?
No one is the asshole. They're both within their rights. I think this is a situation where you just didn't have to make a decision. And it is what it is. If I was the artist, I would want to put the song on the album, and I probably would, because it's like you said yes, and because now it's big, you're reversing it. Like, wow, I've invested time and effort in putting this song out there. I could have written something else. I wrote this, but I asked you, and so I don't think she's wrong. Now going forward, I think to me this is more of a really going forward thing. Because what is done, and she's been asking you consent to put you in there. So what is done is done. Now, going forward, if you don't want her to make music about you or include you in that, and she can't respect that because a lot of what she writes is writing for her experience, then I think that like you all can move forward, because she's like, listen, I want to be able to share all of this. And you're like, I don't want to be shared. I think that if she can make a conscious decision to not share about you and write other songs and experiences and make it very, very clear that like, this is not about the person I'm with. If she's not willing to do that, I can understand why you're not going to continue with this relationship. And if you're not willing to be understanding to say, okay, listen, I understand everything that came before, but going forward, this is going to make me feel a little whatever. you're both well within your rights. If it were a situation like that for me, I would not anything prior to that conversation. I'm sorry, it is what it is. But going forward, if you're like, I don't want to be an inspiration in that music because I don't want people looking at me that way. If I love you enough, I can respect that. I think it's like those who are like actors and actresses, right? Like, somebody might be like, listen, I'm going to be in a scene where I kiss somebody else, and I'm not going to turn down roles in my career for me to make it because I can't kiss somebody else. I need you to be okay with that. Then you're like, I'm good. And then I'm kissing somebody else and discussing friction. All right, cool. We can't do that. However, I might say I'm cool with that. But the line for me is if you are going to be, in a sexually, naked situation with somebody else, that part, and you could be like, oh no, I can't be in a situation. It is what it is. And I'm like, all right, that's my line. Or you could be like, listen, I'm not sure I could say yes to that. But are you okay with the fact that if I get to that situation in my career and it's career defining, I am open for us to have a conversation about it and try to decide as a couple.
Yeah, and what bothers me, I feel like I can understand the like, well, you guys are just probably not compatible because no one's really wrong. But I didn't like the shade though. The like, oh, I didn't think she'd get that big.
Yeah.
When it was a small following and no one's listening to it. Yeah, you could talk about, whatever, like how good I am in bed or whatever she's talking about. But like, or bad I am in bed. I don't know what the fuck she was singing about. She probably talked about, oh, he cheated on me once, or oh, da, da, da. I have no idea. But point is, for it to be like, oh, when it's no one really listening, it's cool. But once you become bigger, which I never thought you'd be bigger, take it off. I would be offended by that more than you switching up on me.
For sure.
That's offensive. I'm like, bitch, what? To who's ever writing this about, the Reddit dude, I don't know. I feel like you definitely should be a better partner because like we don't need to word things in that way of, oh, I didn't know that you'd be so big. I didn't like what? I'm your girlfriend.
It's not giving you believe in me.
Can you believe in me? Like part of believe in me. I'm gonna be Beyonce someday, okay, bitch?
Yeah, that's the way it's supposed to be. And you know what? That's the other part that is not spoken about when you're dating an artist or a creative. Part of that relationship is about supporting them because you see them at their most vulnerable. You see the self-doubt, the uncertainty. You can't date somebody and not be at those things or be supportive of them because that's when they need you the most. So if you're not into that or you don't believe in their music, it can be awkward if somebody don't believe in your stuff and they're just like, because it's like y'all don't need each other. Just be play partners. Just hang out when you want to hang out, and then
like we ain't gonna be serious.
You're saying
and for me, it's like my podcast. Like, let's say I ever become Joe Rogan. That's his name, right?
Yeah.
He's the biggest It's like my boyfriend being like, oh, I don't want you talking about me on your I'm okay with you talking about me on your podcast because nobody listens. But once you become Joe Rogan, which I don't think will happen, don't talk about me at all. Like, fuck you.
Yeah. If I'm talking to something about my family and 500 people listening, it might be different if like 5 million people listen. There might be some things now that somebody might be like, yo, listen, I'd rather you don't mention that situation, right? Like, and I can understand that, right? That, hey, there might be some things, but if I'm cutting my teeth as somebody who always overshares, it's like writers, like, then that's my MO. So now my family got to know, listen, I'm a sharer. So maybe I don't get invited to certain things because they're like, listen, maybe it's no pictures because you might post it on your 5 million followers and now they've seen the baby pictures we don't want the world to see. You got to be sensitive to people. I think a lot of the answers come in conversation.
Yeah.
You find a line and sometimes there's no line and we got to go your separate ways.
Of course, thank you for coming on. And we want to have you back when your album is out. We're going to have you back on here. We ain't going to let you go that easily. Yeah, whatever, yeah. And so thank you all for listening to Saucy But Sweet with Ali McPherson. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and continue supporting the show. See you next time.